caving in to our doubts, faces filled with sadness. When words are said, we'll regret. I can see the fire that we made just to save us. When we try to make up for never letting go, said the things we promised not to say, then we break up just to start all over, even though we know this is the hard way better. We can't be heartache together. This is the hard way better. We can't be heartache together. This is the hard way better. We can't be heartache together. This is the hard way better. Let's go back, let's start again, to a place a long time ago when I kissed your lips. I can see the fire that we made just to save us. When we try to make up for never letting go, said the things we promised not to say, then we break up just to start all over, even though we know.
Good morning, Rescue Church family. My name is Justin Mitchell. I'm so glad that you guys are able to join us for another Rescue at Home. We have some very important information linked in the description of this very live stream, and a couple of those things, first and foremost, is our digital Connect card. The digital Connect card is the most effective way of how we can connect with you and your family and how we can pray for your needs as well. Secondly is, for those of y'all that call Rescue Church home, this is a place and a time where you are able to give to the mission of seeing people brought into a life full of freedom and purpose. Not only for our church family, but for those around us in our city and for those who call Durham home. And guys, you can give by hitting the link in the description or by visiting the Church Center app. Also, if you want to continue to give even more, it'd be awesome if you hit the share button. If you hit that share button, it literally takes 7 seconds. That's right, 7 seconds, and you can make an eternal difference in someone else's life around you. We also encourage you, from where you're at with your kids, your spouse, make some noise, be loud, let your neighbors know. Turn the volume up. If you have some subs, if you got some speakers and monitors, whatever, turn them up and enjoy worship with us. And let's just make a joyful noise for the Lord this morning.
With good
done with love for you? And within all the joy and through all of the waiting, I'm undone with love for you. I could never forget the spirit that changed me. I'm undone with love for you. I'm undone with love for you. Our the Father, love rushing through your veins, warm and devoted, tenderness filled with strength, and you will the bone. You speak life to my soul, and I'm swept away. Oh, I'm swept away. Oh, I am good. You say I'm good. I am worthy, wanted, loved by you. This is living, breathing proof that I am chosen, wanted, loved by you. I am good. You say I'm good. I am worthy, wanted, loved by you. This is living, breathing proof that I am chosen, wanted, loved by you. I'm undone with love for you.
Well, good morning, everybody. We're live, like legit. This is live right now. I'm not this isn't pre-recorded or anything. So I need you guys to hop on here and tell me good morning. I need to see your digital faces in chat. I know a lot of you, whenever you turn the live stream on, you kind of cast it up to your TV, and that's great. I love that. But we'd love to have a little bit of interaction with you this morning because it's just been so long since we have connected, so long since we've seen each other. But I got to tell you, it is so good to be with you. By chance, if this is your first time ever watching Rescue Church, you have no idea who I am. My name is Josh Overton, and I do have the extreme privilege and honor of being the pastor here at Rescue Church and leading this church with my wife and just some amazing people. And today, this is a little bit different in the sense of normally when we have an online service, we have a pre-recorded message coming your way, and that's gonna continue. But today, I just thought it'd be really, really important to just take a moment, take a pause, and say hello, and to see you. What's up, Kim? I see you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Jeanette. Good to see you as well. Crystal, Brooke, my girl. What up? Good to see you guys this morning. Tori, what is up? Good morning to you and Mark. Hope you guys are doing well. Man, I got to tell you first and foremost, thank you guys so much for your prayers over the past few days. And many of you know that I was sick. I really thought that I had COVID. I'm still not 100% sure that I didn't. I was sick for about 10 days. My brother and I were together the weekend prior, both displaying the same symptoms, but we had 4 or 5 COVID tests between us. They were all negative, so who knows? But it certainly felt pretty bad. We're really unsure what it was, but your prayers, my wife's tender care, and an abundance of supplements have got me back on my feet. I feel so much better. Kind of got this lingering cough, but other than that, I'm pretty much back together. So that's good. Melissa, hello, friend. Good to see you. Good morning. So today, I kind of want to give you guys not really an update. I don't think it's time for an update yet, but I do want to at least let you know some insight on on kind of just what we're doing as we head into the new year. This is our first gathering of 2021, just with the holidays and then being sick. We haven't had a time to do that. And so I wanted to spend a few minutes to do that very thing. But I do want to let you know that part of that, we're taking some just time, Brooke and I, over the next 21 days, starting today. In fact, we are entering into a time of prayer and fasting and just really believing that the Lord is going to speak to our hearts and what that means for Rescue, how he wants us to take a step in what direction for this year. And I know, well, shouldn't you have already done that? We have been doing that. But you guys know that this thing that is COVID-19 just continues to evolve. And as I said a few months ago to our team, hey, listen, like, this is our reality. And since we have this reality, this current reality, we have to make decisions based on that. That doesn't mean it's going to be that way forever, right? When the reality changes, then how we operate in that reality can change. And so right now we're committed to continuing online as well as our home gatherings. Those will open back up once everybody is back healthy. The flexibility is good to have the online option. So like today, no one is gathering in my home. It wouldn't be safe to do that. But we are doing it online, right? So that's so good. And we are continuing to do that moving forward. So I want you guys to know that for sure. But Brooke and I are committing ourselves to the next 21 days to pray and fast, and we're gonna invite you guys in to join us on that starting next Sunday. So you get a week heads up, a week prep into preparing yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically to join us on this second 2/3 of this prayer and fasting, if you should choose to do so. More about that though moving forward. Landon, good morning, buddy. Hope you and your family are doing well. Please tell the kids we said hey. So good to see you, man. I love the Fleming so much, and good to see you guys. So yeah, more on that moving forward as far as what it looks like to pray and to fast, and really that sets the tone for this series that we're going to move into. And you guys know that traditionally we have monthly sermon series, which kind of looks like a time for us to focus on a specific topic or specific passage or a specific book from the Bible. And we're going to do that. But, traditionally it's been Josh or Brooke or whoever's communicating will deliver a 30-minute message, right? 45-minute, 50-minute message sermon to you. You take that and then hopefully, you go through the week and you unpack that and you chew on that and you marinate on it. And that's good and that's helpful, and we're certainly not doing away with the teaching of God's word. That is a huge staple of a gathering, of a church, of a community. That's not going away. But what we're hoping to do over the next few weeks is shift this experience to something that is easier for you and more inviting for you to engage in, right? So it's not just sitting down, opening up your laptop, opening up your phone, casting it to your TV and watching it, but truly participating in, especially if you're watching this with other people. Maybe that's just your family, or perhaps you attend our home gathering, or soon enough when we open up a few other homes, and hopefully prayerfully in the next few weeks and months, and you start attending those home gatherings. We want it to be interactive. We want it to be engaging, because at the end of the day, you can sit at home and watch something, right? We do it every day with Netflix or whatever, YouTube. We watch the video, we move on. We don't, and none of this, our goal in any of this has ever been to be something that is just consumed, but truly embraced, engaged with, and interacted. Does that make sense? I hope it does. And so we have been praying through and working on and trying to curate basically church for you, where you can be the church and you can live out what it means to be a follower of Christ. And there's going to be more on that in the coming weeks. We've been talking about it now for several months, and then kind of every time we get ready to pull the trigger, something literally happens internally with the organization, or something shifts with what we have planned. And I can't tell you how many things on the back half of 2020 got canceled, and even into the beginning of this year that we had planned and that we were excited about, but literally the carpet kind of got pulled out from under us just due to COVID, due to facilities, due to limitations on gatherings. Like, we can only do what we can do, you know what I mean? So we're trying to be faithful with that. We're trying to be faithful to you guys. We are committed to seeing freedom and purpose evident in your life and the lives around us as much as we were on January 27th of 2019, which is the first service we ever had, right? And that's crazy to think that literally next week, in 2 weeks, we're going to be celebrating our 2-year anniversary. And so there's more on that we've got coming. That's going to look a lot different, obviously, because unfortunately, we're not going to be able to gather together. Drew Blanco, what's up, man? Good to see you in chat this morning. Can everybody tell Drew hello? My buddy, hope you and your wife are doing well, man. Please tell her we said hello. Good to see you this morning. So listen, I could spend the next few minutes really just chatting your ears off because I miss you guys that much, for real. But I wanna kind of leave you with a question. It's a quote, really. It's not really a question. And then I want to invite you to watch a film with me. It's about 30 minutes. So rather than hear me preach a message today, I want you to listen. And I know I just said, well, I thought this was going to be more interactive, and it is. But today I really want you to lean in and process and capture what this video brings you today. It's really going to help us unpack and define what Godspeed is. What does it mean to walk, to live, to move at God's pace? And this whole idea, this whole concept originated in my heart and prompted in my heart from a quote from E.M. Bounds. As a leader, as a pastor for this past year during COVID, thinking and trying to process, how can we move forward as a church? How can we make sure the wheels don't fall off? How can we make sure we're still meeting the needs of the people in our church and around our church? Started looking and trying to work through all these methods. And as I've been doing some personal study and reflection, I was reminded rather of this quote from E.M. Bounds, which says, and I want you to write this down. Okay, so today would be a really, really good day to have a notepad or a journal beside you in your lap. It'd be a really, really good day for that, okay? Here's the quote. The church is looking for better methods while God is looking for better men and women. The church is looking for better methods while God is looking for better men, better women. What's up, Austin? Thank you. I love you. So here's the deal. I want you to write that down. I want you to think about it over the next 20 minutes, 25 minutes as we watch this video together. And I want you to see Godspeed as an invitation to walk slower, but not just to slow down in life for the sake of slowing down, but to slow down so that you might see more, okay? What does it mean that God is looking for better men while the church is looking for better methods? What could that mean? What are those implications? These are just like rhetorical questions I want you to ponder on. And then here's the second one, okay? Here's the second. And I'm gonna come back after this video and we're gonna kind of unpack this together, okay? And you're gonna unpack it with the people in the room that you're in right now. But here's the second thought, okay? When it comes to being known, not oh, I know about, but I know. We all have these people that if I say, hey, do you know Joe Black? Some of you would be like, oh yeah. Well, let me give a real person example. If I said, hey, do any of you do you know who Jeanette Massengale is? Some of you would be like, oh yeah, I know about Jeanette. I know who she is. Like I've heard of her. I know she works at High 55. I know she's got 2 beautiful girls. I know she's married. Like I know about her. I know she's married to Enoch. Like, but a few of you would say, oh no, I know her. We've been friends for X amount of years. We experienced this together. We did this together. I grew up going to her house with Mincy and David, right? Like they were my adopted parent. Like I know her. There's a difference between knowing about and being known. So here's what I mean. Okay, listen. When it comes to being known, what scares us about that? And here's kind of the thought that I want you to filter it through. Think about when we were kids, teenagers, college. What did we want? I wanted to be known. I wanted people to notice us. I wanted people to like us. We wanted people to accept us, date us, befriend us, right? And not the methods that we use to make that happen were not always true and genuine and authentic, But at the end of the day, we wanted to answer the question. Like, we wanted to be known. Now we chalk it up to, well, I'm just content. I don't need these people. But I think the reality is we've gotten scared to be known because we've seen what it really takes, right? The ingredients of being known: vulnerability, intimacy, time, trust. What does it mean to be known, and what scares us about that? Those are the things I want you to think through. So I want you to listen, like, please. This would be a good time now. You can kind of cast it back to your TV if you need to, and just lean in to what the Lord is going to speak to you during these next 25 minutes as we talk about Godspeed.
When you first met Matt, what was your impression?
He meant well, but he didn't know quite what he was doing. I think we helped.
I think they did help. I've been running for most of my life, running through life to get somewhere else. But the thing about running is that you miss things, many things. And if I kept running, I was going to miss everything. 15 years ago, I was finishing seminary. I'd studied history, I'd studied Jesus. I was pretty sure I knew what I was doing. The truth is, I was centuries away and miles away from what Jesus did and what I was supposed to be doing. When I was running, it was easy to stay hidden, to avoid being known. One professor knew this, Eugene Peterson. He said, Matt, if you want to become a pastor, go find a parish. Go find a fishbowl where you can't escape being known and where you lose the fear of being known.
I think when I realized that nobody in America gets listened to very much, I was surprised at how little people had relationships. And all I had to do was just sit there and listen. I'd never read anything on church growth. I just started out going through the neighborhoods, knocking on doors, getting acquainted with people. That's what started what I said to you. I just started looking at this is my parish.
He knew that if I really wanted to walk like Jesus, I had to slow down. I was like, Eugene, I'm in. I'm sold. Where do I go to learn to become this kind of person, this pastor? He smiled and he said, you might have to go further than you think. You might have to leave America. And I thought, that'll never happen. As it happened, my wife and I were invited to study in St. Andrews in Scotland. That's when everything began to change. This is the story of learning to walk instead of run. It's the story of the places and the people who slowed me down. It's the story of the freedom I found and the freedom that found me. So we moved to St. Andrews, began to study, began to fill our heads with more good knowledge. I also began to need some pounds. We needed money, and there was a job for a parish assistant. So I applied, got the job, and showed up to work. My first day on the job, I came to this door and I said, "Where's my office?" Reverend McDonald said, "Your office?" And I said, "Right, sorry, where's your office?" And he said, "My office?" Then he walked me around to the sign where he pointed to his home telephone number, which was hand-painted. There is no office. So where do I work? Then he pointed down the street and said, "Start walking. Get out into the parish." In Scotland, a parish is a piece of land. It's bordered by rivers, streams, mountain ridges, the ocean's edge. There are stone walls, farmers' fences. There are also roads, but roads that follow ancient walkways, paths people have walked for centuries, from one farm or one house to another. And each house has a name. American houses have numbers. In Scotland, houses have names. It took me a while to understand the difference. It took me a while to even notice. It took walking the parish. When he said start walking, I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I was always driving my car, going too fast to notice people or the weather or anything. To be in a parish meant to walk. And that was a whole different way of living. The first door I knocked on, I actually did my I was nervous, and that felt friendly. And I learned that I wasn't there to give people the good news. I was there to be a part of their life. With time, questions might come out, but I ended up learning more about them and they about me than me communicating the truth they needed to hear.
People are not used to it being intimate in any verbal way. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. We don't want to be known by name many times because we don't know if they're going to like us. Who can you trust?
My generation, our century, is the tourist generation. We are always on the move, and so we can avoid being known. We avoid our deepest fears of being known. I realized that this avoidance, that this way of moving and always being on the go, is totally different than the way Jesus lived in the first century, and the way most humans have lived for all of history. So two things were happening at once. I had Eugene calling me to slow down, to become a pastor. I also began reading Tom Wright. And in his writings, I discovered a whole different vision of what life was like in the first century.
We live in such a rootless world. My wife and I have moved house, I think, 16 times in 42 years. It's a sort of complete mirror opposite of that, polar opposite of that. To think of being in that one place is the Benedictine ideal, stabilitas, stability. You are here, you stay here, and you go deeper.
I witnessed this idea of stability firsthand at a nearby abbey, where the monks welcomed me on retreat as part of their community.
Stability usually means staying in the same monastery all your life till you die. And that's quite a challenge in a world which chases around all over the place. Trying to escape from who you are and where you are. And the secret of stability, or part of stability, is to realize that I'm a sinner, yeah, but before that, I'm a beloved sinner. And so I am loved by God as I am. Very quickly, you see people's faults, at least I do. Look at that guy, no. But to see people's virtues, no, it takes longer. To learn to know them takes time.
And it's not boring, It's only boring if you lack imagination. In fact, it's fascinating because human beings are endlessly fascinating. And you learn by going deeper rather than by the relentless quest for shallow novelty, which is how our culture lives.
The world I was discovering in the writings of Tom Wright exposed me to a whole different way of living, to the way that Jesus lived, especially to the way Jesus earned people's trust, how he risked being known. He lived in a fishbowl where everybody saw everything he did and heard everything he said.
When we read the New Testament, we must relentlessly avoid anachronism. We mustn't imagine that they think exactly like we do, to say, okay, let's go into a world where actually when you walk down the street, you know not only who everybody is, but who their uncles and cousins and aunts were, and who died last year and who got married the year before. That's the world that Jesus lived in. It's a very rich world, it's a very dangerous world. We'd be very vulnerable in that world, and we protect ourselves against that.
To continue my training, we had to move from St. Andrews to Pitlochry. Beautiful village, center of the Highlands. The church is perched on a hill. Malcolm Ramsey's the minister. I preached an awesome sermon one Sunday, but I asked Malcolm what he thought of it. Malcolm said the ending should have come 10 minutes sooner. I was like, Malcolm, that's only a 20-minute sermon. People deserve more on a Sunday. Malcolm said, Matt, people deserve more on a Monday. When you were writing that sermon, did you take time to visit people? Well, no, Malcolm, I was busy writing my sermon. That's when I knew I had to go back into the parish and learn some more names.
One part of speech that's the most important thing in the language is the name. Names are the very basic, life-giving term in language. You say a person's name, and it means something, because there's a relationship then. Until there's a name, there's no relationship. And I had pastors who never knew my name. I was always greeted by my pastors with, how's your soul today? Never my name, just my soul. It always irritated me.
So I started spending less time in my office and more time walking in the parish, meeting people. I knocked on one door, expecting a granny to answer the door, who I could look down upon and talk about the weather with. The man who opened it had deep blue eyes, giant red hair, and I froze. And that's when I met Alan Torrance.
Well, I've done a few good treks, and very often we like to get naked, no in any kind of crude way or to upset people. You can imagine coming through the woods and then you see about 30 lassies and guys, starkers, like, whoa, what's happening here? How you doing? You still say hello.
And sensing my discomfort, he invited me in, made me a cup of tea. We got to talking about why I was there, which I still wasn't sure, but he put me at ease. He made me feel at home.
The way I was brought up was that you had to show hospitality to folk, you know. Give them a cup of tea or a biscuit, a meal if they need a meal, you know, so we take great pride in that. You know, we're no rich folk, but to me, you're poor if you can't offer hospitality.
When I left Alan's house, a book fell off the shelf, which I didn't notice. But a minute later, Alan's at the door saying, Matt, look at this.
Check this. That book fell from the shelf, and the book was St. John's Gospel.
So I asked Alan, do you want to read it? He said, not really. But I said, how about if we get together a few other people who don't want to read it, and we ask questions?
We'd established he was going to set up a wee kind of group of men to look specifically at the Bible.
And while we were reading John's Gospel, I had a brilliant point on something theological. Alan said, "Give me a map." So we gave Alan the map at the back of the Bible, and I remember him realizing that the scale of the map was the same scale as where he lived, and how the distance from Capernaum to the Sea of Galilee was about the distance from Pitlochry to Dunkeld. He got the scale.
Most of the main stories about what Jesus did are in that very small setting of Capernaum, Bethsaida, just the area around the north edge of the Sea of Galilee. And occasionally he gets into a boat, goes over to the other side. But we're still talking about what in our language are small villages, a few hundred inhabitants.
Here was a guy who had never studied the Bible like I had, but he could see it better than I did. He could understand it almost naturally. In his person, in his way of seeing, I was moving to the first century, to the way people thought and saw things.
The law at the time was if you speak and you're speaking, lies, then you will be punished by being stoned to death. If he was coming out with bold statements about, raising people for the dead, making the blind see, he had to have convinced communities that was true, or else communities would hold him to account, and that he would, have no credibility whatsoever.
Part of Alan's skepticism was assuming Jesus preached in big cities, where he could project one image in public, but be somebody very different in private. You can't do that in a village. When Alan learned that Jesus lived in a village, earning people's trust the hard way, he believed. It wasn't a sermon that changed his mind. It was a map.
So that whole scale of things was crucial to my understanding and my convincing of, the power of Jesus Christ.
Basically, a lot of what happened was in an oral culture where they told stories, where they remembered what had happened. We can get a little glimmer of this from time to time. If a celebrity comes to town, if a famous footballer or rock star, what we have to imagine is a culture which was like that about everything all the time. They just told this stuff, and they knew things as a result in a deeply human way, which we have been in danger of forgetting now for quite some time.
My time in Pitlochry was coming to an end. It was time for me to get ordained, finally to get the collar. I had to find a parish. I thought I had done a good job of learning everything this journey had to teach, learning how to walk, visit. I had only just scratched the surface. There was a place called Methlick, which gave small a whole new meaning.
In Scotland, there's A roads and there's B roads. There are no C roads. But Methlick was at the end of the B999. That is the back of beyond.
As you enter the parish, the road actually takes these massive S-curves, and the sign says, "Slow down now." It's following old boundary lines of farms that were made for walking. So you have to slow down. Then as you drop down into the village, you pass the school on the right, where my kids walk every day. On the left, you pass Mars of Methlick, the tractor dealer. Then you hit the main road. This is Methlick. That's the main road. That's one direction to the church. My house this way is to Methlick Motors, and it's called Methlick Motors, but everyone calls it Duncan's because it's a third generation Duncan shop. Down the way is, well, the bus has stopped, which is kind of big news. He doesn't come very often. There's the pub, There's the grocery store, but everyone calls that French's because it's where Jimmy French opened. And then, well, that's it.
58 years.
58. All in this house?
Yes.
Where were you before this?
Udney.
Udney, hi.
I belong to Udney.
And what do you like about life in a village?
It's not so fast. There's more time to think about things. That's right, I think.
Yeah.
Enjoy living in Methlick. I've been here all my days for the last 82 years, so I was born in Methlick. I was born up at Ward 4, actually. Right at the back. There's an old building there with it still had an iron roof on it, corrugated iron roof. That's where I was born.
Well, I've been here 44 years. We're the original tenants here.
Well, if I see somebody, I always say hello or good morning, whether I know them or not. So
We usually stop and speak to them, and most of the people, I took them to school. Quite a lot of people I took to school. We've been a bus driver here.
I knew I was going to be away for 2 years doing national service, so that kind of satisfied my outlook, you know, and you come back, and then my father died, so I was in charge of the business since when I was 22. You see, my grandfather bought this shop here from a man named Cobbett Smith, and the agreement was that he could stay in the house as long as he lived. This is back in the 1920s. Well, Cobbett Smith, he lived till he was 94. So,
this year we won the Best Small Communities War Memorial in Scotland. Methlick is renowned throughout Aberdeenshire as being one of the closest villages that everybody does things together, and it's got a very good reputation on that.
This is the older church. The newer one's just over there. And I even can't say the older church because this is actually fairly modern. The church was founded in about 410, same time Rome fell. But we meet over there now because we've got a roof, which is an improvement upon no roof. When I got here, I met Colin Presley. Colin works up at Wardford Farm. He works the fields, he raises sheep. He's the head elder of the church.
Well, we met Matt the first time in Methlick in the pub here around the corner there. We tried to introduce him to a few names. We tried to give him a brief outline of the village and who is who and where was where.
And to introduce me to the parish, he showed me a map. Colin then began to recount for me the names of each person who lived in each home, which also had names. And I thought, he's doing this from memory.
I live in a farm called Wardford, which is a name given to a part of the River Ithen which was very shallow and used to be able to cross over there with the horse and gig. Other big farms are Auchencreeve, Cato, Auchencreeve, Stephen Mackey, late Stephen Mackey, Balchwindichi, Lee, Haddo. There's just a number of farms around the parish here.
He had all these names memorized, and not just the names, but their stories. He knew the history of the families, the good, the bad, the painful. He just kept describing the people he knew and loved and looked after.
Things are done here correctly, perhaps leisurely, but I think there's a far better quality of life here in this small village where everybody knows everybody and there's a strong community spirit amongst us all. And he was a man from America, young, fast living perhaps, and we thought, well, here we could maybe educate him in the more slower things of life.
So the woman I buried is Ethel Davidson, and she was 92 years old. In talking to her family about how she lived, I found out she never once left Methlick. Someone like Ethel is known in a way I cannot imagine being known. In the beginning, this fishbowl world was a little bit scary. I can't say oppressive, but I was kind of thinking, my goodness, they can see everything I'm doing. When I watched how Colin would listen to me or to somebody else, or take the time to visit someone, I realized I would need to make a whole lot more time than I used to be present with people.
If you live in the same community with other people, you also have the benefit of seeing God's grace at work in them. There's brother so-and-so. Don't go within 2 miles of him or Krakatoa will look like a penny banger. After 10 years, you can probably get within half a mile of him. After 40 years, you can maybe get within 6 feet of him. Okay, if God can do that with him, maybe he can work with me too.
Now, maybe the slowing down just has to do with more of a habit of being there. But something has to happen. You can't just rush through life. One of the things that technology makes it more difficult for us to do is that there's so much quick information. And if you don't get quick information, you probably think, well, forget about it. Somebody else will figure it out. But nobody's going to figure out somebody's name. You've got to pay attention for that.
Some years ago, there was a theologian who wrote a book called 3 Mile an Hour God, because basically we walk, most humans walk roughly 3 miles an hour. The thought of traveling at only 3 miles an hour fills most of us with horror now. If we are walking, if we are going at 3 miles an hour, we are going at a much more, if you like, humane pace, and there is time to process what we're seeing and what we're experiencing and smelling and knowing. And then the thought that maybe, if we are made in the image of God, maybe this is why we sometimes get so frustrated with God. We want God to go at 60 miles an hour. If I see what I want God to do, I want to do it right now. And in fact, God is walking slowly around Palestine, around Galilee. God is doing what God is doing in God's time. And maybe if we were prepared to slow down a bit, look who's talking, we might actually be able, paradoxically, finally to catch God up.
The idea of slowing down to catch up with God is counterintuitive. It makes no sense. People used to wish each other well with the expression, Godspeed to you, by which they meant, we hope it goes quickly. Maybe Godspeed really is 3 miles per hour. And if we walk with him, we will let him know us and let other people know us too. Colin came by the manse one day, and he knew I wasn't me. And he put it nicely. He said, Matt, you come alive Monday nights at the gatherings when you're talking to people, asking questions. It's a little different on Sundays. And you should risk trying that on a Sunday morning. And when he said I should risk trying it, I felt two things. I felt great excitement and great fear. Fear because if I tried speaking without my notes, I didn't know what would happen, but I feared what would happen. I would freeze, I'd get lost, I'd feel a fool. And that might not be other people's fear, but it's mine. But I also felt great excitement because I thought if I could just talk face to face to people about Scripture, about things they care about, things I care about, this could be a conversation. So I took the risk. I sat in the front row with the congregation all behind me, and I heard two voices. One was saying, go for it. Enjoy this. You got nothing to lose. The other voice said, you have everything to lose. You're a preacher. You're meant to preach a good sermon. You've got people who need to hear it. It was an accusing voice. And I knew which one to trust. One's the devil's, one's God's. One leads to freedom, one leads to guilt. But I could not have won that battle in my brain by myself. I needed help. And that's when I believe the Spirit helped me stand, turn, and face the congregation, who in facing them ceased being the congregation. There was Ann Gardner, Liam, his sister Lexi, all the people I knew who would give me the grace I could not give myself. There was Sandy Forbes, Margaret, Jan, Sue, and Evelyn. Valerie Mitchell, and Granny Wallace, and my family, Madeline, Chapman, Iona, Amy Kate, my wife Julie. I was in a fishbowl, and I was unafraid. This is what Tom Wright is writing about. This is what Alan Torrance can do naturally, looking me in the eye. This is what I was now tasting in talking to people who were once strangers, who had given me grace. This is how Jesus changed the world, and is still changing me.
I'm not sure that we can ever go back and pretend that we like people were 2,000 years ago. For most of us, that's not an option. It seems to me what we have to do is to learn to use wisely the gifts that we now have been given.
Becoming known is a mutual process. It's a giving and receiving, holding nothing back and not saying, I refuse to accept this aspect of you, or I refuse to give this aspect of myself.
You know, some people say, slower means, you know, it's not good, slow is not good, but sometimes slow is good.
There's no place on this earth that's without potential for holiness, or maybe the potential for unearthing holiness right where we are, with these people we are with.
13 years ago, I thought I was ready to become a pastor. It's crazy how one conversation with Eugene started this whole journey. I may have helped some people learn how to trust Jesus. They taught me how to walk like Jesus, how to listen like him, how to risk being known, and how to know others. But there's still a long way to go. When you first heard the word parish, what did you think?
I don't know what he was talking about.
I wondered exactly how are you going to translate what you're doing there here?
I think it might be hard. I think Scotland is a lot calmer than America.
I want to slow down, but I'm not really sure how to do that. I have no idea.
This is going to be hard, but everybody knows that. But there are people here who want to try. Together, we're going to figure out what it means in America to live at God's speed. Hi, my name is Matt. What's your name? Michael. Nice to meet you. Stop visiting the parish.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I've watched that multiple times myself personally, and something grabs my heart differently each time. But the one thing that remains the same, the one thing that continues to be present, is the fact that it makes an impact. And I think so many of the questions that they kind of end up with there at the end of the video of like, this is great. We live in America. Our culture is much different. Our society is structured much differently. My life is structured much differently. It's go, go, go. It's sun up to sun down. It's get up, go to work, come home. I have kids. It's get up, go to school. I come home. I got homework. I've got a job to get to. Like, I don't think anybody would argue with you that our lives are busy. I think the reality, though, is that there's an invitation for us to truly step into something incredible, something more, if you will. So there's a couple things that I wrote down, and I would love to hear from you guys. We're going to be done here in 5 minutes, but I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section right now. What is one thing? What is one line that spoke to you, that captured your heart, that grabbed your attention during that documentary? I'll share a couple of mine. The first one is, I loved how when he was talking to one of the farmers in Mithlack, he said it about him. He said all he did was the names he knew that he loved and that he looked after. The names he knew that he loved and that he looked after. And I think it'd be real easy to watch that film and say, okay, well, I'm not a minister. I'm not a pastor. I'm not doing ministry. But the reality is we're all called to be ministers, right? We're all called to be priests and prophets and kings. And we all have this responsibility to be an image bearer of God into our world around us, into our sphere of influence, the marketplace, our family. And so there is this call, this purpose to be a minister. And I love what the overall like message of this is, this invitation for us all to be in a community, to create a community where we are known and where we are loved. This invitation to be known and to know others. And I love what N.T. Wright said there at the very end, is that there is, or maybe it was actually, I think it was Eugene Peterson. He said, this refusal to accept this aspect about you, or this refusal to give this aspect of myself up to be vulnerable, it doesn't exist in that close proximity, in that community, in that tightness, that closeness. And that's what I believe at the end of the day. That's what I really believe Rescue was purposed to be and to create. And I love kind of the last line that I'll read, and then if anyone else to share something, I'll go through the comments and read that. But I love that when they were talking about his sermons, they were like, it could have been a little shorter. And I know all you guys have said that, okay? So I forgive you. But he says, it could be shorter. Well, why? People deserve a sermon, and but they deserve more on Monday. You deserve more on Monday. The people in our community deserve more than hey, how you doing? I hope you have a good week. Move on. Keep moving, right? You deserve to be known, your name to be known, your story to be learned. And I love. He said the benefit of being in community and that closeness of community is you get to witness God's grace in someone else's life, and then begin, oh man, if God can do that in their life, what God can do in my life. to be a part of that story is just so incredible. Austin says, I'm a sinner, but first I'm a beloved sinner. So true. Even before that, you're a beloved son, right? You're a beloved daughter. So good, man. We need to slow down to catch up to God. I love that, Tori. Yes, the 3 miles an hour. Think about how hard right now in your life it is to give God time. We say it with all the best of intentions. Like, I'm gonna do my mornings with God, my time with God, my devotion. How hard is it to do that? We got to slow down, right? We got to slow down in order to catch up with God. It's 3 miles an hour to let Him know us and to be known by others as well. So good, Tori. Brooke said that there is no place on earth without the potential for holiness. That's so good, babe. And I would just say that this is an opportunity to redeem something that's been lost, to reclaim it, to see it restored to holy ground. It is intimacy. It is community. So over the next few weeks, we're going to continue to unpack Godspeed. And we want to continue to invite you into the practices, the rhythms of walking at God's pace for 2 reasons: to be known by Him and to be known by others. I believe with all my heart that that is the community that you and I desire. And so if we desire that, then we have to make changes and we have to do things in order to get that result. We can't keep doing the same things that we've always done and expect different results, right? I think we at our heart of hearts, we desire to be known by God, to be known by others. And so I want you to think about this over the next week, okay? And I would love for you to answer this question with the person, whoever's in the room with you watching this, or next week if you gather in our home, we're gonna start by asking. I'm gonna ask you this question. We're gonna start the conversation, the discussion with this, and it's the question I gave you at the very beginning of service today. What does it mean to be known? And what scares us about that? What makes us fearful of being known? Brooke says, I love what they also said about Jesus. He lived in a very dangerous world, vulnerable and open. So true. That fishbowl life, right? And we don't want that, right? We try to brick up our lives. Don't let anybody in, right? Don't let anybody in. Don't let anybody see. What are we boarding ourselves up from? What are we? He says it, right? Through this pace of life, this rhythm of being known by God and being known by others and getting to know others and learning names and learning stories, there was this freedom that I found, or rather this freedom that found me. Also, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I need a hands-on lesson. I need to go to Scotland to see it for myself, right? I'm more of a visual learner. And so Rescue 2021 Scotland trip. Who's in? I love you guys very much. It was so good to spend a few moments with you. I want you to take that question. What does it mean to be known? Why do we fear it? What scares us about being known? And spend a few moments this week journaling about it, praying about it, discussing it with the people around you. It's very important. And then next week, if you're coming to the house gathering, then we'll talk about it. But if you're not, it's even more important that you discuss it with someone this week. Text somebody, call somebody. If somebody was in the room with you today watching Rescue Online, talk about it with them. And let's go on this journey together of learning how to walk at 3 miles an hour, how to live at God's pace, how to move at God's speed. All right. Love you guys very much. And we'll see you next week.